Welcome back, everyone. I am excited to be talking to Tyler Muto today, who I'll be contributing to his pretty amazing online platform, Consider the Dog, which is, I think Sarah Dixon used that expression like Netflix for dogs. And I think that's a really good description of what it is like. So, Tyler, please introduce yourself to our listeners and maybe talk a little bit about how Consider the Dog works.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. So yeah, I have considered the dog. I started it in 2018, so we've been around for a little while now, and you know, it it is sort of like Netflix for dog people, I guess I would say, or dog trainery people. So it's basically a platform where we have a lot of content. We have online courses, we have shorter videos that you can watch as well. And while some of the stuff can be purchased individually, we offer a membership that encompasses like 99% of the content that's on there, with just a couple exceptions. Um, and yeah, it's me. I think we're up to 10, no, might be 11 or 12 instructors total now. And sort of the idea behind it when I started it was I had been traveling around teaching seminars. My family was growing and I didn't want to travel anymore. And I wanted to still be able to teach on that sort of like wide scale and have that broad influence, but I didn't really want a website that was all about me. And part of what I think is really interesting about dog training is I think it's really personal. I don't think there's ever going to be a single right way to do things. And I know that the way I do things isn't like right for everybody, or people might just resonate with a different instructor better. And so I wanted to create something that was just a little bit more open-ended and sort of gave people a taste of different personalities and different methodologies and different opinions, but in a sort of really constructive way. And that's kind of what we've become. It's a really nice community. I'm always really proud of the fact that we have it, like a private Facebook group for everybody. And I can't even remember the last time I had to moderate something in that group.
So nice.
That's kind of to give people a sense of like the kind of organization that it is. Like it's just we're everything, we've got people that are more, positive reinforcement leaning. We've got people that are more balanced, and we're able to sort of coexist and learn from each other and all just try to do the best job that we can for the people and the dogs that we serve.
Yeah, that sounds, I mean, that's kind of really ideal. That's what I have come to believe the dog world should be like in general.
The
Because
world should be
the
like in
world,
general,
you're right.
especially
That
these
is true.
days.
The world should be like in general because we all have something to teach. We all have something to learn. I've never met a human being I couldn't learn something from, whether it was about dogs or something else. And even if it is sometimes, it's like, okay, you meet someone or you watch a technique and you're like, that's interesting. I guess that's not for me. Like, still, you still know something new that you didn't know before. And especially if you see something working for a, like in our example for a dog, um and I'm sure the same goes for parenting or for I don't how like how you live your life, right? For anything. um it's not all for you, but I can still appreciate that, oh yeah, like this works, right? And for some people this is going to be the approach that really clicks for them, even if it's not me. That
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always a really important distinction to make, Um, like the best medicine is the one that you'll take at the end of the day. And
true.
so it doesn't matter like if I want to teach somebody how to solve their problem, but it's in a way that like just does not resonate with them and they're not going to follow through on. And this can happen to any end of the spectrum here when it comes
Yeah,
to dog training. Um, like it just doesn't matter, right? So at some point there's always going to be, no matter where you sort of land or how you decide to train, there's always going to be advantages and like compromises to anything that you
yeah,
do, right? And we all have to choose our own advantages and compromises, right? Um, and so regardless, there's just going to be people who that's just not in line with them. And
yeah.
if our end goal is to make sure that the dogs that are out there that need help get help, then we really have to be like more understanding and kinder to each other about maybe different choices that we may make when it comes to dogs, especially when we know we're all really just trying to like solve the same problem and sort of have the same goal here in mind, which is we love dogs and we don't want to see them under stress and struggling. Hopefully, we
98,
also care
yeah,
about people and we don't want to see them under stress and struggling because as a pet dog trainer, which that's my world, like I'm not in the sport world. So in the pet, it's not just the dogs that are suffering, it's the people
yeah,
too. And I think we need to be equally compassionate towards both parties. And we have to sort of figure out when's the best time to compromise. And maybe we have to shortcut things a little bit for a dog. And when's the time that we need to compromise and the owner just needs to suck it up and deal with the problem for a little bit and take things a little bit slower because that's what their dog needs. And we've got to sort of play both sides of that. And it makes it really
yeah,
tricky. And I think that's where, yeah, that's where I think just we just got to be like a little bit
yeah.
more open to things, right?
And I also think
I feel
that
like that was a really long, winded answer to whatever wherever we were going with that.
I don't remember where we were going initially, but that's such a good point. I feel like, and part of that is I feel like 98% of dog professionals who make a living helping people and their dogs want the best for the people and their dogs, even if they don't
Exactly.
agree with each other. And we also need to know each other in order to be able to refer people if we are not the right trainer. Like sometimes it turns out that like it's just not a good fix, a good what is it? A good fit,
Yeah.
right? Between me and the client. Um, I remember two times where I had to quote unquote fire a client. So I was like, this is not that's just not working. Like it's not working for you, it's not working for me. You are wasting your money and I am constantly frustrated. You need to work with someone else. And actually, luckily, I know who you should be working with. So, problem solved. Let me reimburse you for the lessons you haven't yet taken. And this is who I want you to call. And being able to do that, I think, is so valuable, both for us as for the client, because, yeah, and for the
I
dogs who benefit
mean,
them.
as a professional, being comfortable firing a client is already very like I remember the first time it was my mom that was like because my mom's sort of an entrepreneur as well. She's an interior designer and she has a store and I remember that early in my career I had a really difficult client and I was really just like struggling over it, you know. And I remember talking to my mom about it and she's like, Tyler, you just got to fire them. She's like, you was like, seriously, you just need to like, just tell them you can't help them anymore. Give them whatever money you got to give them and just walk away from it. Yeah, she's like, by the end of the year, you're not going to even think about the money you lost and you'll have saved yourself a tremendous amount of stress. And I remember how, like, what a weight, like how liberating that was. Like,
Yeah.
wait, I'm allowed to do that. That's okay for me. And so then to have that and be able to like also be like, but I know somebody else you can try or that you can go to that might be a good shot for you. And sometimes it's not even somebody who's um, has a different sort of ideology than you from a training standpoint. It just might be a
Yeah,
personality
totally.
issue,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and that is true. Like I don't feel I would be, I don't think I would be comfortable saying, okay, I'm not going to help you anymore while I see you still have these issues if I didn't also know here's this option or that option or this other person who you might try who I think might be a better fit for you. Um
Yeah, yeah,
because otherwise
exactly.
it feels like I'm walking away. I mean, from walking away from the human is one thing, but walking away from the dog is another thing because the dog didn't do any, like the dog, I haven't met a dog that I didn't click with, right? It's usually the human.
Really, you haven't? I've totally met dogs that I like do not like.
I mean,
You've
I've
never met
met
a dog
dogs
that you don't
where
like?
I met dogs that I wouldn't want to own, but
Okay, for sure.
as long
That's
as I
fair.
don't like they live with someone else, like so that's fine with me.
Maybe it's because I used to like, I mean, when you have like a kennel and a daycare and like you're having to like
Yeah.
really take care of the dogs, like you get dogs that you're just like, I'm not a fan of yours. We
I
just
mean,
don't see eye to eye. You know, we're just not, just like people, like we're just not clicking.
now
I'm
that
still
you
gonna take great care of you. I'm still gonna, whatever. Like, I don't have any spite against you, but we're just
now
not
that you say
vibing.
that, I actually had a foster once that yeah, it just I don't even know exactly why, but I did not like that dog.
Yeah, sometimes it just happens. I mean, that's why I was surprised when you said like, you've never met a dog you didn't like. I'm like, wow, really?
But like, I
Um,
mean, generally when I'm just, for example, I'm going there once a week or something, right? I
yeah,
do
that's
a lot
different.
of like in-house training and working with them and they get homework or something like that. Like an hour a week.
It's different. Totally
That's
different.
different
Yeah.
than, yeah,
Yeah.
than
Yeah. When
like
you're doing like board and
8 hours a
trains and
day.
you're really spending a lot of time
Yeah.
together, you get dogs that you're just like, hey, but you know what? We don't have to be friends. This is a working relationship.
Yeah.
That's basically it. But no, most of the dogs are amazing. And then every now and then you get one that you just don't see eye to eye with. It
Yeah.
happens.
I mean, there are definitely a lot of breeds, for example, where I'm like, yeah, seems like a cool breed, or I can see why some people like this, but that's just that would not be for me.
Do you have
But
any
I think
breeds that you like just really don't enjoy training?
not that I don't enjoy training, but because training is always like it's this puzzle and it's fun to like figure it out.
Hmm.
Especially like I like the biddable high drivey dogs, right? But I also like when I have someone who's like very like not into it, right? Because that is a puzzle for me and it makes me grow as a trainer. I can frame it that way for myself. But there's definitely dogs that I wouldn't want to live with. Like I wouldn't want to live with a beagle, for example. I think beagles are great dogs, but like they're so nose driven. I don't know. For some reason I'm like, nah,
See,
not
I would say I have more dogs that fall into the opposite. I used to get dogs in at times that I'm like, I really enjoy you. Like, I actually think you're a cool dog. I love hanging
yeah,
out with you. I don't enjoy training you,
really.
right? Just like I've actually had employees that like, I love this person. I really just want to be your friend. I don't enjoy being your manager. I don't enjoy managing you,
Oh yeah, that I can.
but I wish I didn't have to and we could just be friends. You know what I mean? To me, it's the
Yeah,
kind of the same relationship. Um, and
that's
I think some
interesting.
of that might be born out of too, like, the I was really blessed. I had my training center for a long time. I had a relatively large training center. I had, at any given time, usually at least 10 employees. And, you know, there's the like, I'm a dog trainer because I'm so fascinated by dog behavior. And then there's the like, I'm also trying to run a business. And so as a business, like we sort of need to operate in certain ways when it comes to like the timeline that we have to work with people. And so, when you're doing, at any point in time, we'd have 6 to 8 board and trained dogs in-house at a time, which for me feels like a lot. I know businesses that do 30, which to me is like I
That
can't even
is,
imagine
yeah,
that. Um, but you kind of like you sort of some dogs that are like challenging to train that are those puzzles. While if I had all the time in the world, great.
yeah,
But I don't. And I've got this person that paid me a lot of money, and I want to make sure I give them a good result.
yeah,
Um, and then I think also what comes into that too is, I want to make sure that any frustration I'm feeling about the timeline that I'm on doesn't bleed into the training that I'm doing in any way. Like, it's not the dog's problem. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like the dog didn't choose the timeline. The dog has nothing to do with the timeline. It's not their
yeah,
fault,
yeah, yeah,
right? So, um, yeah, that makes it a much more tricky training environment. And maybe that's why I've had more dogs that I'm like, I don't enjoy training you, even though I really enjoy you. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And it's very rare for me to have dogs that I'm like, I don't like hanging out with you. Like that, I get them. It's definitely happens, like I mentioned, but it's like it's super rare, you
yeah,
know? I'm more likely to be like, the training you is a freaking chore. It's a chore. Like you're making me really earn my money right now, you
yeah,
know? Um, yeah. So
yeah.
maybe that's the business end of it talking.
It maybe, yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, so like I've done board and trains and do them now and then, depending on where I am and what options I have. And it's always like for me, it's always one dog at a time, and I choose very carefully, right?
Sure.
So it's like it's gonna be a dog who I want to hang out with and who I want to train. So
Yeah.
that's
And
different.
again, like that's the downside of having a facility because like sometimes once you scale to that level, you have to feed the machine, right? Like you have a
Oh yeah.
mortgage, you have payroll to cover, you've got all these other expenses that are regularly occurring. And so sometimes you don't have the luxury of being choosy.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Which is why I will
yeah.
never. have employees. It's like that is my nightmare. I am always gonna be a
I don't
one
blame
like
you.
I honestly like I'm the opposite of you in that sense. Like you say you enjoy running a business. I'm like, oh my God, no.
No, I hated
Um,
being a manager. Let me be super clear about this. I hated being a manager. I never wanted to be a manager. I think I suck at being a manager. Like I genuinely don't think I did a good job as the manager of my business. In fact, at a certain point, I just hired somebody else to be the general manager because I was like,
yeah,
this is not my strong suit. It caused me so much stress, and I don't think I was particularly good at it. Um, I enjoy business. I enjoy investing. I enjoy things like that, but I don't enjoy managing people. So
yeah,
when you say like I would never want employees, I feel you. That was probably the number one reason that I decided to sell my business ultimately was I was very unhappy because
yeah,
once you like you've got 10 employees, you've got a big facility, a lot of what you're doing at that point is managing. You
yeah,
know what I mean? No matter how you do it. And I just never wanted to be a manager. Like I just wanted to be a dog trainer. I didn't want to manage people. And I'm a really good dog trainer, and I felt like I was not a very good manager, so that didn't feel great either, you know?
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, like I understand that. Like I really like working with people and connecting with people on a personal level, but like on a flat hierarchy kind of thing. So like even when I'm teaching, I like to be very approachable to my students. I like to be like I like to blur that line between, oh, I am the person with more experience and knowledge, and you are coming to me for help. Like I like to blur that line as much as possible and like teach and interact on like one level. That's how I enjoy it. And I feel, and not every student, that's not for every student either. But for
mhm,
the kinds of students who that is for, I think I'm pretty good at that. But that is also a personality trait. Like I also don't have that respect for authority some people have. Like I don't really have. Like if I res I will respect you because you're good at something and I like you and I'm like, yeah, like these are great results. But like I'm from Austria and there is a culture of like there's a pretty hierarchical culture where people are like shaking in their seats when they first meet this famous professor or whatever at a university.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, why? Like I have like that's just another human being. Like that person has not done anything that impresses me yet. So I don't like I feel like I don't really have or I don't have that same sense, at least
Like
from
you respect
my
people, but not titles, it sounds
yes,
like.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I would also definitely be a terrible manager because I would try to make it as flat hierarchical as possible. And I think I'm not sure if that's always a great business strategy. Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at least
I'm
not
just
under
always like,
ethics.
anytime I meet somebody that's like they thrive as a manager, like it's what they were put on this earth to do. I'm
Yeah,
like in awe. Like I think it's it's like especially yeah, it's enough said. It's really
yeah.
hard. It's
No,
really hard.
yeah, like it's got to be a personality, like a personality trait,
Yeah.
right? To be able to do it and do it well and enjoy it. Um, yeah, it's like interesting. Anyways, back to dogs, and also the right. You mentioned the community.
Hmm.
How does the community aspect of consider the dog work?
So we have, I guess, sort of like three sort of avenues of like just community interaction. So we have a members only Facebook group. So if you're one of our monthly or yearly members, you get access to the Facebook group, and it's pretty active on there. Most of the instructors are on there pretty regularly as well, answering questions that come up. And so it's just a nice discussion about. I would say our demographic is like 50% professional dog trainers, then 50% dog owners. So it's also really nice because there are a lot of like really talented and experienced professionals that aren't like affiliated with us. They're not, instructors of ours, but they're always willing to sort of add their 2 cents and help out. And I think it's a great place for dog owners to just feel like it's not all professionals. There's a lot of novices, and we actually like when the novices ask questions. It's kind of what we're there for. And so it's also a really safe place for people to be like, "Hey, I'm really struggling with this," or "Hey, here's some video of what I'm doing. Like, what am I doing wrong here?" And it feels very safe in that community.
Yeah,
And then we do twice a month we do live streams. I'm hosting them, and I usually have one of our instructors with me, and then every now and then I just do myself so I can answer questions for people. But usually it's me and one of the instructors, and people can ask questions live. They can also submit questions ahead of time, but it allows us to, get a little bit more in depth into some of
Mhm.
the answers and some of the things. And when people are there live, we can ask them, of course, follow-up questions and get more insight as to what's going on. And then we do have just a community section of the website. It's not used quite as much, but it's basically just a forum that's built into the website. And I primarily put that there because we recognized that there were people that really wanted to join our membership, but maybe that don't use Facebook. And they're like, but what if I have a question?
Yeah.
And so we wanted them to like have a spot where they could ask. And like I get a notification on my phone when somebody does that, and then we can make sure we answer their questions as well. But the Facebook group is definitely like the more actively used thing
Yeah.
and the live streams.
But I think it is important to have that spot too, because I feel like, yeah, like I know more and more people who are leaving Facebook.
Yeah.
And the main reason I am on Facebook is because a lot of the dog world lives there. Like if that wasn't the case, I don't know if I would use it that much anymore. It I feel like it's getting more, yeah, it's not as like it started out being very like stay in contact with your friends, whatever. It seems to be more, or I feel like there's more advertising being pushed at you and you like not necessarily seeing
Yeah.
what you want to see. So I can see how people are moving away from it or not joining it. I think the
And
so-called
honestly, we have a
young
lot of
generations
like,
are not necessarily joining it.
yeah, I mean, it's often also too like just a lot of like the older generations as well that like
Yeah.
never got on it to begin with, you know.
And the
Um,
younger generations are not getting on it anymore because they're using
yeah.
TikTok or something else.
I'm
So it's good to
I'm
have
I
a
personally like
alternative.
I wouldn't even be on any social media, honestly, if I didn't have to for my business,
Yeah.
for owning a business. I think the whole environment's just doesn't make me feel good. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
leave social media feeling like better. Um, and I keep saying like it's not like I don't even feel like we should call it social media anymore because like the social aspect, like you said, isn't really there as much. Facebook a little bit still. There's still a lot of community stuff on Facebook, and you still can engage with other people
Yeah.
um, that you do want to be social with. Um, but most of the other ones, that they're really just media.
Yeah.
They're like public access, like publicly sourced media, but it's not. There's nothing social about it. It's just media that you can
Yeah,
comment on.
and the like what I mostly dislike about it, and I mean that's completely off topic, is that I feel like I have no control over what it shows me, and I do not know, I don't understand how it works exactly. So the people I'm friends with, like a lot of them are other dog trainers, and I would like to see their stuff, right? That's not what Facebook shows me. It shows me like other random things that I don't want to see.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, like I'm sure there is a logic behind it, and maybe it is possible to train the algorithm, but I've kind of given up on
Who
that.
wants to go through all that? Who wants to do that work,
Yeah.
right? I didn't open up a TikTok account for years, and then finally I was like, we probably should get Consider the Dog on there. So I opened up a TikTok account. And when I first opened it up and I'd like open on my phone, the videos that it would show me were just so bad. And I would say that to people, and they're like, "Well, you just gotta like spend more time on it, so it like learns about you." I was
Oh,
like, "But I don't want to. Like,
yes.
why? That's so much work for, and I don't want to. So like, no, I want to keep it being uninteresting to me, so I'm not even tempted to open it. I actually had to take Instagram off my phone because I felt so compulsive
Yeah.
about it, and I didn't like that. I didn't like not feeling like I was in control of my own attention and my time.
I mean, that's what it
Um,
wants to do,
and I
right? That's
wish that I was like I wish I had the self-discipline, but like if it's on my phone, I'm going to touch it all the time, and I don't want to. So I just had to take it off, and then every now and then I have to download it for like a day to approve something, work related. And then I delete the app again because I literally have no self-control.
you can
I don't
use
have the Facebook app,
you can use
like
Instagram on your computer too.
yeah, but it sucks.
I
There's certain
know.
things you really need to be on your phone
I
for.
know it's so
Yeah,
annoying, but like I'm trying to do so my rule for myself is everything I can do on a laptop, I do on the laptop and not on the phone because I don't want to walk through the world because I have my phone with me when I'm in the world. Um,
yeah.
like being glued to the screen, right? And that rule usually works for me. But it's really annoying that the things that get harder and harder, like I feel like they like on purpose, they break them on the computer. So you have to use them on the phone, which is
Yeah.
mean. I mean, of course, that's what they do. They want you to spend as
I'm
much
going to
time
do that to
talking.
consider the dog. That's a great idea. I'm going to make consider the dog not work right on a computer, so people have to use it on their phone all the time,
But
touching
how
it all
will
the
you
time.
benefit from that?
I just want a sense of control over other people. That's all. I have no idea. No.
Is the
It's completely maniacal. This is just
is the app free? The thing.
the app itself is free, but
So you
most of
should
the
just.
content is
Oh
behind
well.
the
So
paywall. We do
that's.
have a bunch of stuff on there that is free. Like there is like some stuff so you can kind of just sample things.
No, I mean
But
like the phone app, like there is an app, right, for your phone, which I
oh
haven't
yeah,
downloaded because
yeah, we do.
I don't phone. But so you have to just sell the app and then you break it on online.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I
So
mean.
like
That's what
you
I mean.
can't the app itself can't be free anymore. So people have to purchase it. Because they still want
Oh,
to have access to their consider the dog content, but they
oh,
can't
so
use it on
I'm
the computer.
I get it. I'm double dipping. I charge it for the membership, and then I charge
Yeah,
separately for the app.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, you're more maniacal than I am. All right, let's talk about dogs.
Yes.
Let's talk about dogs.
Yes. Yeah. Tell me about like it is funny that I feel like that may actually have been the last podcast with you on that I listened to where you said you were gonna drive down the price of the doodles because your next stock was gonna be a doodle. And I
I
don't
got a
remember what
doodle. I
podcast
got
that was.
one.
And you have a doodle now.
I
Tell us
have a
about your doodle.
doodle. Yeah. I didn't buy her from a breeder. We got super lucky. I was without a dog for several months for the first time in 20 years
How
at
did that
least.
feel?
Weird. I mean, honestly, it was Charlie, which was the last dog that we lost, he was a really special dog. Like he was, you know, he was that was a big loss for our family. So in some sense, it was like, you know, we kind of rode things out with him to the very end, and that's really heavy. And so it was a little bit refreshing. Like we kind of needed that break.
Yeah.
But then I started getting the itch. My daughter really started getting the itch. And so I was watching rescues, kind of keep my eye out. And I knew what I wanted from like a personality, temperament standpoint and size standpoint. I like small dogs. Um, and uh, and then I reached out to a colleague of mine, actually the woman who I ended up hiring to manage my business when I figured out that I was not doing a good job of it. Um, she works with a lot of rescues still, and I reached out to her. Her name's Amy, just to see like, you know, who she was working with, so on and so forth. She had just heard from another mutual friend of ours in the rescue world, who has a neighbor that had Abby, um, and couldn't keep her essentially. Kind of long story. And so we were just able to link up, and she's 4, and she's just perfect. She's just an amazing dog. We love Abby. Yeah, she fit right
Very
into our family. Yeah, great to have. I
nice.
do like Doodles though, and I know that that makes me um, like a little bit of an oddball in the dog training world. I feel like most dog trainers I talk to are like they're not into Doodles. Like
I
dog
do not
people, I
understand
feel
why that
like.
is though. Like it is weird. It is very strange to me that this is definitely, yeah, you are right. And I don't know why that is.
I
Like
don't
it's
like all doodles. Let me be
completely
clear about
off.
that. It's not like I like anything doodle, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I
like
like the
but you
little
like
cute small
the
ones.
type of dog, right? That is. And like why wouldn't you? I don't
Yeah.
understand.
So it was when you were listening to the podcast, I really and I still love of all the like, you know, doodles that are
You
out
don't have
there,
a Cavapoo, right?
what the Cavapoos. I
Yeah, right?
really like
Yeah.
Cavapoos. I've never met one I don't like.
Oh,
Um, they're so stinking cute and they're fun. I really like those dogs. So that's the dog that I was like, I'm going to drive down the price. I'm going to use my influence in the dog world. I'm going to start like trash talking them and I'm going to drive the price down. Um, like obviously joking, but yes. But so Abby she's actually a mini Labradoodle and Golden Doodle cross. I guess they call it a double doodle. As much
nice.
as I like doodles, I'm not totally
Well,
like up
go
to
it.
date on the lingo. But she's great. Like I said, she's 4. This woman that has had her had done a beautiful job raising her, like really meticulous job raising her. So she's just got an amazing temperament. She's great with the kids and great around the house. I mean, really couldn't be happier with her.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I agree, like I agree with you. Like I'm more I used to have a standard poodle. My
Hmm.
ex has her now. So I like poodles already. And I think the most common doodles are Labradoodles or Golden Doodles. I'm not a
Mhm.
retriever person, but I like individual. There are individual labs and Goldens that I like a lot. So why wouldn't I like that combination? That's great. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, no, they're great. I mean, I appreciate like I think part of it, and I know that this is also not the most popular of opinions in the dog world. Um, and I understand folks that are into specific breeds and sort of preserving the heritage of those breeds. Um, and I get that, and that's totally great, but I don't see why it also isn't appreciated if there is. Again, I understand that this is not all doodles out there, but some of the doodles and the doodle breeders, they're just trying to create a dog that's a really good fit for our modern needs, right? Like the
Yeah.
modern family and the way that we currently live with dogs. They're trying to make a really good family pet. Again, not all of them, but a lot of them. And if we think about any of our breeds, like that was originally like the idea behind it is like, hey, we have a need and we want to make sure that we're, breeding a dog to meet that specific need.
Yes.
And again, I'm not knocking the people that like, okay, we have these breeds we love, we want to keep them going, but some of the needs that those dogs were bred for don't exist anymore. Like
Yeah.
we're not, and so again, that's fine, but
But like the
why can't
average
we
person who just
also
would
like,
like a nice dog
yeah,
is
and
not,
and I
yeah,
think, part of it too is like dogs are the only species on Earth that I know of, maybe there's others, that have this ability to mutate so quickly, right? So we've been given this animal that is so adaptable. And then at some point in line, like we just decided, like, okay, these breeds that are already here, like, bloop,
yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of,
like, like, like this is perfection. We can never make anything better, even
yeah,
though society is changing and the way we live with dogs is changing. Like, let's not change a thing. Like, boom, here we are. This is what all the breeds that we ever need ever. Um, And so at
I
some
mean,
point, like, you
it's
got to mix dogs
problematic.
together to create new breeds, right? Like,
Of course, and it's also problematic on the level that that leads to inbreeding and it leads to issues
oh
that
yeah, of
we
course, that's a whole
feed
different
into
discussion.
by keeping those stat books closed, right? Which
Yeah,
is like this idea of quote unquote purity is, I mean, to me, like I don't really understand it. Without wanting to trash talk anyone who likes a particular breed. I also have breeds that I really like. But I don't think it's okay, or like I think I don't like I feel like we can do better than perpetuating a 25% cancer rate or something like that, right?
sure.
That does not seem
And
ideal to me.
yeah, I think at the
But
end
I
of the
just
day,
yeah,
like again, I may not understand it. To me, it's like some of these breeds that were created, and again, like they're created for a purpose that nobody is using them for anymore. It's kind of like me being an enthusiast of like old automobiles and like thinking that everybody should be driving around Model Ts, even on modern highways. But at the end of the day, like again, like I have nothing against it. I just don't see why that it's mutually exclusive. That like you can still preserve your breeds all you want to, but
yeah,
why do we have to make like why do we have to trash talk people that are out that are trying to also
yeah,
test out new ideas with breeds and make new dogs that are suitable for our modern lives? Like, and I feel like that's a lot of what happens, at least what I hear in the dog world, is just like doodle breeders and doodle owners, they just get like shit on. Like
yeah,
really, and it's like what like they didn't like why, And you go,
yeah,
oh, well, someone just doing it to make money. You know what? Half the German Shepherd breeders I know are just doing it to make money. The dogs are disasters. So like let's not pretend that
exactly, yeah,
that's just breeding. Like it doesn't
that's a
it's either
dog,
side of it,
yeah,
you're gonna get that,
yeah,
you
it's not
know?
a doodle problem. And you're right, like
Yeah.
also your take is a lot kinder, like yeah, because yeah, like I shouldn't be criticizing
All
people
right, tell us how you really feel, Caden. Just let it all out. Like just
I mean, like,
make
I
people
don't feel
angry.
that strongly about it, honestly. Like, I think society has bigger problems, but like, I shouldn't
Yeah,
be
for
trash
sure.
talking people who feel strongly about this dog and this breed having to remain quote unquote pure. But I agree with you. Like, we definitely, there is no reason why we can't have both. And also, if you're not familiar with, are you familiar with the Functional Dog Collaborative?
No.
Google it, or I'll send you a link afterwards. So they're very much in favor of that, of like let's breed dogs that are quote unquote functional in the modern world.
Mm.
And whether that means you want a purebred dog and maybe you want to change it, or maybe you recognize that that breed has like their genetic factors, and because the coefficient of inbreeding is so, I think high is bad, not low, but maybe I'm wrong. Like I'm not a geneticist.
Yeah.
Um, like there are people who like want to open the stat book and like add in something else and like help with the health issue. And then there are people who just are on the mission of breeding really nice pet dogs. And so like it's basically a group that focuses on just furthering the like everyone is welcome here. Like basically, what are you doing with Considered a Dog? Everyone is welcome here. Let's learn from each other and let's let's
Yeah,
just live and let live and support each other in any way we can.
yeah, and I think, because it's tricky, right? So somebody who, for instance, is, let's just say, a German Shepherd enthusiast, be like, well, we're also trying to breed German Shepherds that are really great family pets. And like, cool, but like the priority though, you're still prioritizing that it has to kind of have a certain look. And there's certain things that like sort of have to be there. And it's really tricky, right? It's really tricky. We know that temperament can be tied to physical traits. So it's really tricky. So what's wrong with some people just saying like, I don't care what it looks like. I'm gonna prioritize the temperament. You can
Yeah,
prioritize certain shape and
exactly.
whatever. I'm gonna prioritize temperament and blah 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 blah. One thing that I think is interesting though, to kind of go back to the idea also of, you know, different from the dog training world, right? Like different, we'll call them ideologies, for lack of a better term, I suppose. One thing that I've always felt is for those people who are out there who are like really against like tools used as sort of like a blanket thing, but like your prong collars, your e-collars, or even just any sort of firm discipline in
Yeah,
general. One huge problem we have is that there are a lot of dogs being bred out there that like are just exceedingly, I'm not going to say it's not possible to manage these dogs without equipment, but exceedingly difficult and probably not possible for a large percentage of families just based on their circumstances, their ability, the time they're able to invest, even with the best of intentions, just because they have other life obligations. Um, and but there's so much effort for anybody who feels that way, right? That these things shouldn't be allowed, they should be banned. It just seems like all the targeting is on the trainers who are doing the opposite.
yeah,
If your number one goal, like you are so passionate about, I don't want dogs to be corrected, you should be championing hard for different breeding practices.
yeah,
Because if the absolute bet, listen, you can outlaw anything you want to outlaw. If people are owning dogs that are difficult for them to control, they are going to attempt to punish those dogs.
yeah,
And without education on how to do it safely and effectively, God only knows what people are going to be out there doing. Like, I
yeah,
actually think you open the door to far more abuse if you outlaw, education and appropriate tools. I actually think that's worse for animal welfare at the end of the day, unless we also put an emphasis on breeding dogs that are low prey drive, low assertiveness, like, you know what I mean? Like we need to
yeah,
be creating larger populations of dogs that are just easier to handle. Like Abby, my little dog, she has such low prey drive. We have feral cats in our neighborhood. If she sees a cat, I'm like, Abby, leave it. And she's like, all right. Like that, like that's
yeah,
she like shows interest and I'm like, don't do that. And she goes, okay.
yeah,
Like it's super easy, right? Like I
yeah,
don't need tools with her. I walk her on a flat buckle collar and a flexi lead, you know. I don't put an e-collar on her. Like she's an easy little dog. If everybody had Abby's, like absolutely, like e-collar sales would plummet. They would drop through the floor. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like so like if really what we care about is like dogs not being punished, and okay, if you still want to put some of your energy into like lobbying against the trainers and whatever, like regulating the training industry, like fine. But the idea that there's no attention being spent on the types of dogs that are being bred and how that might actually serve that goal more proactively,
yeah,
right?
That's
And
a good point.
and
Yeah.
again, not to say that we can't no longer breed Doberman Pinschers or German Shepherds, but like we probably don't need as many of them
Yeah.
that there are out there. And the marketing of the dogs, like, okay, I haven't done this experiment in a while, but I'm willing to bet that if you like open up like an AKC breed book, right? And I'm picking on German Shepherds here just for consistency's sake, but if you
Yeah.
open up to the page on German Shepherds, like there's a decent probability in any breed book that it's going to say like great family dog
Oh, yes.
under German Shepherd, right? Make really good family protectors. Listen, anybody who I know who has little kids that tells you they want to buy a German Shepherd, I'm like, don't do it. Like, do not do it. And again, nothing against German Shepherds, but like for the modern family who's like your kids are running around, you got two working parents, your kids then want to have friends coming over, and like the dog doesn't just live in the backyard. Like, absolutely not. Is it not there's way better dogs for that
Yeah.
kind of environment than a German Shepherd. So we're marketing these dogs in a way that really just facilitates the need that people are going to need to use some kind of punishment. Whether or not we trainers do it, it's like people will take off their shoes and whack their dog with it. Like it's not, you're not going to stop. Like you need to either educate people on how to do it safely, but also if like you really care, and I do care, which is why I talk about this stuff. Like I actually do think there are way too many like guardian breeds existing right now,
Yeah.
like guardian breed dogs, not the breeds themselves, but like the number of the dogs. Then there are homes that are actually suitable for those types of dogs. That's
Yeah.
the number one problem. And really, it's the
No,
number
I
one
agree with
problem.
you. And like it is not the and also trainers like to shit on the customer then, but it's not the client's fault. Like most people
They
like
got
do
sold a bill
look.
of goods.
Yeah, like they look what is like they do like do some research, right? And it says like it will say, "Oh yeah, great family dog." Or maybe it will say aloof with strangers or something like that. What does that even
Yeah.
mean? Like the random
Yeah.
person is like, "Oh, that's great." So that means my dog is not gonna pull me over to every stranger they see in the street. So they will be easy to walk. That's not what that means,
Yeah.
right?
And to be
And
fair,
that's
there
all you're
are a
supposed to
lot of
know.
people out there that go out and buy dogs that it's just like even the breed description is like, why did you buy this dog? Like this is not you. This is not what you're looking for. But needless to say, yeah, I think, again, like I know this sounds weird. Like people associate me with like people who like, some of your audience may have never heard of me before, which is fine. Those who have often associate me with like I have a 7-hour course on how to use e-collars. Like people associate me with tools. I've
That
written
is how I
articles,
first ever
defending
associated.
balanced dog training and sometimes condemning the reward only community, not the methodologies, but the ideology and the damage that sometimes the ideology can do. Um, and but the thing is, I hate like I don't want to like give a leash correction. I hate doing that. I hate doing that. Like I don't feel I don't know if you can hear me or not because your video froze.
I can hear you, but
Okay, good. Yeah.
you hear
Okay.
me? Yeah.
I can hear you now. Yeah, yeah. So, I don't feel like I don't feel bad in the sense of like that I'm doing something wrong. Like I feel I'm doing what is necessary to the best of my knowledge and ability, but I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
So much of my career and my own development as a trainer has always been, okay, I see the necessity of these tools, but how can I use them less? How
Yeah.
can I train in ways where it reduces the intensity that I need or the frequency that I need to use them? And I'm yet personally to discover for myself, except with certain dogs that are just easier, or the dogs where the dog and where it lives are like a perfect fit, then you tend to
Yeah.
need less tools and things of that nature. But I'm yet to encounter something that can fully make me feel like I don't need the tools anymore. And if some people may think that that speaks to my own limitations, I'm okay with that. Like of course, it speaks to my own limitations. That's why, for as long as I've trained dogs, I've continued to find ways to use them less. So
Yeah.
I've always had some limitation that I've always been consistently striving to overcome, and I certainly don't think that I've hit the end of that line. Although I sold my training business, like I don't train people's pet dogs anymore. Um, you know, I'm yet to get to a place, and I'm personally yet to see a trainer that I felt like, okay, like I think what you're doing is great, but I also think you and the dog can probably benefit from this. You know what I mean? From at least some application of pressure in some way. Um,
Yeah.
but once you get down to that level, right? Like it's so much opinion at that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's so much opinion, you know?
Yeah, and at that level, I feel like if you get the dog to a level where it's where you and the dog live together happily, whether it's like a tiny little bit even happier or not, maybe it doesn't matter. That's an opinion, that's fine, right? But like for me, yeah, your e-color course was the first, like when I first got curious, that is the first one I found, that everyone recommended and it's still like I have since read a couple e-color books and purchased other people's e-color content. And like that is still the one that really clicks for me and makes a lot of sense. It seems really, really fair to the dog. And yeah, like it just makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah, which is
also,
always the idea, right? It's like we want to be fair. We want what we're doing to be rooted in science because, yes, by the way, punishment is also science-based. There's actually
yeah,
mountains of science about punishment and like how it works and what makes it work well and what makes it not work so well. Um, the problem is like a lot of training, even some training schools still, they don't teach it in a science-based way. They teach punishment in a relatively crude way, which is problematic. But all that to basically say, like, again, like I don't enjoy correcting dogs. I don't enjoy punishing dogs. Um, so like for anybody who's out there that feels like these tools should be banned, like we actually feel the same way because your desire to feel like tools should be banned probably comes out of a desire like you don't want dogs to experience what you feel as abuse.
yeah,
I also don't want dogs to be abused. Like we kind of agree on that, right? Um, I'm just of the opinion that banning tools actually has the potential to lead to more abuse. And banning trainers from educating people about corrections. Like there
that's
are proposals out there, to not just ban tools, but to actually mandate where you have to be licensed to be a trainer and you have to be licensed by an organization that doesn't allow any form of punishment. Um, I think that that actually has the potential to cause more sort of net quality of life problems for dogs, let's say. So we kind of disagree on how to get there, on how to
yeah,
reduce the abuse. Um, and basically what I'm saying is like let's make sure trainers are really well educated. Let's talk about punishment because if we can't talk about it, then we can't educate people. And there was like when I was coming up in the training world, nobody talked about it. It was so taboo that even people that were using e-collars, almost all of them would describe it as we're not using this to correct the dogs. It's just a tap on the shoulder to get their attention.
yeah, yeah,
But at the end of the day, what they were doing was actually negative reinforcement, but you would never hear them say that term. And then because of that, I would look at the students coming out of the programs, professional students coming out of the programs, and the way they were using the e-collar was so inconsistent because they didn't even know that what they were doing was negative reinforcement. And if you don't know that what you're doing is negative reinforcement, then you're not learning about negative reinforcement and what makes it work. Because again, there are decades of science that's been
yeah,
published on these things basically all leading up to the 80s and the animal rights movement where we couldn't people couldn't experiment on animals anymore and like
yeah,
I get like rock on, right?
yeah,
But prior to that we are sort of gifted with this mountain of research on negative reinforcement and it's not simple, just like classical conditioning isn't simple. Like if you read
yeah,
Pavlov's actual books, it's like 2 volumes, they're massive and it's really interesting, but it's not as simple as you learn, like the headline of ring the bell
yeah,
and feed the dog kind of thing. um, some of the most interesting books I've read are about all the ways that you can interfere with classical conditioning.
yeah.
All the different conditions in the environment that'll mess it up. Right? It's like it's
Oh,
it's actually really fascinating. So anyway, like I believe that people need to be better educated on punishment so that if at least if they're going to do it, they're doing it safely. They're doing it in a way that at least is always attempting to minimize its need, right? So they're training as a whole. Like, what are the things we can do before we use punishment that will
yeah,
minimize the punishment when we get there,
yeah,
right? Um, I think that that's in the best interest of dogs. And then I also think that Like at the very least, I'm not saying we have to eradicate the breeds that we have. And I don't mean eradicate like the actual dogs, but just like, stop breeding the breeds that we have. Um, but I think we need to be more mindful of how we're talking about these dogs and the marketing of the
Yeah.
dogs. That's what I think we can actually, if we really are interested in reducing, if we're of the opinion that correcting dogs is problematic, which I don't think it's abusive, but I still don't like doing it, and I'd like to do it less. I'd like there to be less of a need for it. Absolutely, I really would
Yeah.
strongly. Then I think we gotta just breed dogs differently. Like that's the best answer, honestly, that I can come up with.
I agree with you when it comes to the general public. And I think the answer slightly varies depending on the population of dog owners you look at too, right? Um, because of like it is of course possible to like when so-called force-free trainers talk about not using corrections in their training, they don't talk about life. They talk about training sessions, right?
Hmm.
So they talk about these 5 minutes that I spent half an hour planning, where I set up the environment in such a way that the dog is gonna do the right thing and then I can reward. So they're not talking about I'm randomly walking down the street with my dog. Of course, they will do whatever has to be done in that scenario. And that is one big misunderstanding, I think, that comes out of the problematic culture of so-called balance trainers and so-called force-free trainers not even talking to each other. It's
Hmm.
that, like, of course, like any any trainer with any kind of common sense knows that life does is not free of corrections for any breathing being. Like that doesn't happen. That's not realistic, right?
Yeah.
But you can, of course, you can also set up your training sessions in such a way that, like, if especially if you're really good, that you don't necessarily need to use those, and you can slowly make your way. Like you can very slowly raise criteria and get to a point where the dog can apply what they have learned in real life. And part of that is simply the force of habit, right? There's a lot of management. So you never give the dog, so let's say you got the dog as a puppy and you managed well. So the dog, you managed the environment and set up the antecedents. So the dog made the right decision, which you heavily reinforced. And then you also never gave the dog the satisfaction to, let's say, chase the cat, right? So the dog hasn't experienced that. And you give the dog appropriate outlets for their need to chase things. So there are like many, many components that come together. And if you're aware of all of them, if you're really good, and if the kind of dog you're working with is the right kind of dog, then yes, you can do it. But it takes a lot, like that is not the average dog, like the average person who has a dog. The average person who has a dog because they want to have a dog, a companion, not because they want to spend 3 hours a day thinking about how to set their dog up for success. And not because they want to think about when they need to set their alarm so they can walk around the block when there are no other dogs out there because their dog is not yet ready to encounter them. But parts of the so-called force-free community do advocate for that. And some people do train and live in that way. And like if you can do it and if you want to do it, go ahead and do it. Like I have no problem with that. That's great for you, right? As long as the dog is fulfilled and you're happy that way, that's not a problem for me. Like, the dog can still get great life quality if you are able to give it to them. So if you have the privilege of not needing to work from 9 to 5 or whatever, right? Or if you have, I don't know, you happen to have money, a pile of money sitting around. So you can like you can go to 3 different sniff spots every day and you can buy a gigantic plot of land and you can fence it and whatever. That's great. These people exist. But I don't think that's the average person, like in terms of skills and in terms of resources, as time as well as money, and in terms of how they want to live with a dog. Like it's perfectly normal to just want a nice companion.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think that's always, I think the hardest thing about being a pet dog trainer, and there's a lot of burnout in this industry, like because that's what I do these days is I coach professional trainers. I'm talking to other professional dog trainers all day long, and a lot of people are experiencing like a lot of just fatigue of their career. And I think part of that is, as a pet dog trainer, so much of our job is basically trying to fit a round peg in a square hole. Like
Yeah,
we're brought dogs that are in environments that they're really not well suited for, with people that maybe again like they don't really want to train their dog. They just sort of have to train their dog because they're in this predicament. They don't have a lot of time. They've got kids. They've got jobs. They've got and a lot of us we'd have this situation where like we know how like we kind of would want to go about this if it were our dog and we had the time. But then we've got the reality of this situation where we've this person not only has limited financial resources, but they're going to have a limited attention span, a limited desire. Like we're only going to get so much out of them when it comes to like
yeah,
their ability to practice at home and how much they can manage their environment, things like that. And so we're going to have to there's going to be some things that we just sort of have to compromise or sacrifice. And
yeah,
so a big part of our job is just figuring out what can I sacrifice, you know, and still feel like I'm being I'm being fair to this human,
yeah,
right? Like I'm not wasting their resources. I think that's and again, I don't want to trash talk anybody. I actually have a lot of friends that are like reward only trainers, but I do think that the reward only community from a professional standpoint, they do have a little bit of a business ethics problem on their hands, which I can talk more about, but I don't want to digress right now. But like we've got to do right by these people. They're spending often a considerable amount of money with
yeah,
us. Um, but we also are trying to like do right by the dog. And so we're kind of juggling between these two things. We have the ideal way that we'd love to go about things, and then we have the reality of what we kind of just sort of have to do
yeah,
to make this situation tenable. And it's not even a matter of like profitability from a business standpoint in that way. It's just like literally the people only have so much time, energy, ability to learn, financial resources. Like we have to support ourselves as dog trainers, so it's a tricky thing. And so that's very different if you're a trainer who your main demographic are like you teach agility and things like that, like you've got your own set of problems. Like, don't get me
yeah,
wrong, it comes with a whole different set of challenges, of course, but your client base is different.
yeah,
And you have people that are like they're enjoying training, they want to put in the time, they're more interested, they've got the time and the energy to devote, they're enthusiastic about it. So again, I'm not saying that they don't have any issues. They have different issues, and that doesn't tend to be one of them so much as for the pet dog
yeah,
person. It's a tricky thing, and that does weigh on dog trainers. And I think if anything, like you said, like you kind of like maybe benefit of the balanced people and the pure positive community talking is like even the balanced people could understand that there are a lot of reward only trainers or quote reward only, whatever we want to kind of refer to ourselves as. Um, that out in the real world, of course, there's gonna be times where they might have to
yeah,
like yank on the leash or
yeah,
step in front of their dog and make eye contact in an assertive way and use quote intimidation, right?
yeah.
Things like that.
That's just not what
Um,
they talk about when they
yeah,
use the label. Yeah,
yeah, and so maybe a lot of balance trainers don't understand that there is sometimes some parallels there. Like we all kind
yeah,
of make those same struggles. I do think that it would be, also good, part of that talking too for, you know, the reward only folks to recognize like, balance trainers do struggle with these decisions. Like this does weigh on us. Again, it's a source of career burnout for people. Because again, most of us like we don't even when we do yank on a leash or press a button on an e-collar, we're not enjoying that part of our job. At least, like, I hope you're not, honestly. You might be okay with it because you see it as, but it's like, it would be like a doctor that, like, oh, I love sticking this needle in a kid's arm and watching them cry. Not that the dogs are crying when we use an e-collar, but like,
yeah,
it's like, I understand the value of this. I think it's necessary, like the ends justify the means, but like, this isn't the part of my job I love. I don't love,
yeah,
you know, doing something to a child that the child doesn't like. I don't love doing that to a dog either, right? So,
yeah,
these are tough decisions. These are struggles that I think any reasonable dog trainer should have.
yeah. And I think any reasonable doctrine does. And I think the like for me, it's always like I want the dog and the human to have the greatest possible freedom and to get as close to their ideal life that they imagine as they can. And sometimes that does mean breaching the subject of, well, maybe that's not the right home, right? Because sometimes I think that is totally the case, and the human would be better. like would have a better relationship with a different kind of dog, and the dog would have a better relationship with a different kind of human. Like that German Shepherd in a family with the five kids who have like 20 friends each who come running in and out of the door, and the German Shepherd comes from this line of German Shepherds who have been bred for protection work. I mean, that's just not ideal.
Yeah.
Like no matter what kind of training you put in, like it's just not ideal. That dog would be probably well suited to someone who wants to do dog sports with the dog, doesn't have five kids, and has a lot of time to dedicate to the dog rather than needs to dedicate a lot of time to their kids. And that's not a like that's not there's nothing morally wrong with giving the dog that life and giving the family a kind of dog that fits well into their household. And a dog who is having fun with the five kids and all their friends, right?
I mean,
Um,
that's ultimately that's how we got Abby. I mean, as easy of a dog as she is, her owner is retired. She actually wasn't originally her dog. She belonged to her boyfriend. Her boyfriend passed away. This woman had never owned a dog before, never really wanted a dog before. And she's traveling a lot in her retirement. And she's like, this dog loves being around people. This dog loves kids. This dog loves playing.
oh,
And like
yeah,
it's just sitting home bored.
yeah,
And like I'm not really a dog person. There's probably somebody that can give this dog a better life. Like that's how we ended up
yeah,
with her. Like, could she have kept her? Yeah, but she was just like, I don't feel good about it. I think the dog could have a better life. And so it's not like, she like dumped her off at the shelter, right? Like just leave her outside, like, you know, like obviously I understand why people can feel poorly about that, but I do think there's too much of a stigma on the idea of rehoming in
oh, yeah,
general.
way too
Um,
much.
it's crazy to me that like two people can get married and like have a child and then get divorced and like
And
people
that's
don't bat
totally
an
socially
eye.
acceptable,
But
but
like
like,
somebody adopts a dog and like that
yeah,
dog is dangerous and like causing them all kinds of stress. And if they get rid of the dog, they're like people are like, oh,
yeah,
can't believe you did that,
isn't that
And
isn't that
again, I
crazy?
think, just dropping a dog off at the shelter or something, again, there are nice shelters or whatnot, but like, obviously if it's a dangerous situation, sometimes you don't
Yeah,
have a
you need to
choice,
get the
right?
dog
But
out of the house, right?
um,
If it's eating
but in
your
other situations, people are
baby.
willing to take the time, find a really good rescue where the dog's going to be in a foster home, like the dog's living its best life. And it's still just really people just have that stigma. And I don't think the dog training community so much. I think it's more the pet owner community because a lot of dog trainers, like I've rehomed dogs before that weren't a good fit for me,
Yeah,
especially because I've had like working dogs in the past that I needed
yeah,
for certain, areas.
yeah, me too. Yeah,
And a lot of dog trainers I know have rehomed dogs. Like we all get it. Anybody in the sport world has
yeah,
rehomed a dog. Like, so it's really more just in the pet like just the average person just there's this stigma and I think
yeah,
sometimes that's our job as their trainer is just to like help them to feel okay to let them
yeah.
know
Give
that
them
that we
permission.
that yeah give them permission support them through those decisions um one thing I want to say like you mentioned about people who might choose for themselves to really take their time and manage the environment and raise the dog a certain way so that they don't need tools and how like that's cool I actually just want to say like I actually take that a step further. I'm really glad that there are people like that out there,
Yeah,
right? So while I don't love if anybody like that is then like pointing a finger at people who don't choose those same choices, but I'm really glad there are people like that out there
yeah,
because, necessity is the mother of invention.
yeah,
And I can just tell you that there are things that I do with positive reinforcement that I would have never figured out on my own because I wouldn't have had to,
yeah,
because I could have always just leaned on something else. But now that somebody else did sort of invent that, I'm like, oh, that could be useful to me, and I can bring
yeah,
that into my own work, right? So like, I think it's great that there are people out there that want to live that way with their dog and make those choices, and I think it's okay if that's not you
of
also.
course.
But
Yeah,
I'm really
I
glad
agree.
that those people exist because I personally like I love learning from reward only trainers because there's oftentimes doing some really interesting things. And I think it's intellectually stimulating, but also, you know, if you're trying to be like really a balanced dog trainer, right? Then it also you're going to bring that into your work, and it's going to enhance everything else that you do. Even, my knowledge of, you know, reinforcement has influenced how I use e-collars even, or things like that. Or for instance, you were talking before we started recording, you were talking about my food claiming course,
Mhm.
which involves a lot of like what we call spatial pressure. But there are people out there that would consider that like we're not even touching the dog, but there
Yeah.
are people out there who would consider that using intimidation, and so they would still see that as problematic. Um, but what you also saw in that course is that before we even do that, there's some exercises that we do with only positive reinforcement to kind of teach the dog that, like, hey, this is what we're after here is that when
Yeah.
there's this thing you want, what we want from you is for you to give space to that thing.
Yeah.
And we want you to learn that. And so we teach that first with just positive reinforcement. And then we add our cues in with that. And then certainly only after that do we then introduce the idea of what we call, spatial pressure or any
Yeah.
kind of
Initially,
pressure, really.
you do it in a neutral context, like totally low
Yeah.
stakes.
And we try to like make the
Nobody's
picture look
stressed.
like what they've already learned.
Yeah.
So that first time that we put any pressure on them, the dog goes like, "Oh, I know exactly what's going on here. Like
Yeah.
this makes total sense to me, because you've already made very clear to me what my expectations are. Everything looks the same. Like I get this." And so again, what we're doing there is we're trying the whole idea behind that course, like you said, is like we're teaching this whole thing so that we have a language with the dog of like, hey, when there's this thing you're super interested in and it's making you feel really aroused, I I need to have a way to communicate to you that like I don't like that and I need you to chill out and I need you to like not launch towards that thing. I need you to stay back and I need to be able to communicate that even in high stakes situations, like those real world situations.
Yeah.
And so my whole thing is like the problem I would have, I guess, personally, is if I did all this effort and training to insulate the dog from the need for corrections, kind of recognizing that out in the real world, something might happen where I need to
Yeah.
use some sort of physical force. Why wouldn't I want to do things in my training to prepare the dog for that experience?
No, I
Like
agree with you. Yeah.
why wouldn't I want to introduce those feelings, those types of discipline in subtle ways, right? Like I can modulate them. That's why we love e-collars actually, because we can get more sensitive on the stimulation adjustment with an e-collar than I can with any other tool,
Yeah.
down to levels that I can't personally perceive, but the dog can still,
Yeah.
right? So I can introduce this feeling and teach the dog exactly why it's happening, the predictable things that lead to it happening, how they need to respond when they feel it, right? And I can get them really fluent on that so that when we're out in the world, if it does occur, it's not a shocking experience to the dog. No pun intended
Yeah.
there, but it's the dog goes like, okay, cool, like fair enough,
Yeah.
right? Like you've prepared me for that. Like I knew that was coming and I didn't like it, but thank goodness I'm very confident that I know how to avoid it in the future because we trained for this moment,
Yeah.
right? To me, that's an essential component of punishment is the dog. We want to make it as easy as possible for the dog to figure out if I don't want this to happen, how do I not make it happen?
Yeah.
And we
It
want the
is
dog to get really confident in that knowledge, right? And
it is the
so,
same. I feel like it's totally the parallel to like when I add a cue to a behavior that I'm shaping, for example, I will shape the behavior first until I know the dog is about to do it anyways, and then I will name it. So
exactly.
I'll only
Yeah.
use the name when I know the dog is going to do the behavior. And
It's
you're
the same
basically
idea.
doing the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also like I'm not gonna use the word come for the first time while the dog is chasing a deer into the road. Like I want to train
No,
that in
of
a
course
neutral
not. Yeah.
environment. Well, why wouldn't I want to train the dog about what types of things are going to lead to punishment? What types of things are going to lead to pressure turning on and pressure turning off? Especially when I know that I can use degrees of punishment where the dog goes, where it's almost like a game, right?
Yeah.
Like there are things that happen in games that are unpleasant, but it's like not unpleasant enough to make it like I don't want to do this anymore, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just it's part of the game. And you can train in such a way where the dog's figuring out a puzzle, they're trying to find the solution, they want that treat, and part of it is involving these mild discomforts here and there as they're like, okay,
Yeah.
that's a wrong choice, this is a right choice, that's a wrong choice. And so we can really prepare the dog quite a bit. But really the point of what I was saying is like the beginning of that food claiming course, the stuff we do with the positive reinforcement before we do the spatial pressure, which comes even before we do anything that would be like a more external type correction or a more physical correction, which I mostly use a squirt bottle, which even again, to me, that's really like not that objectionable, but some people still object to it, right? And but that whole exercise with the food in my hand, I got that idea from Susan Garrett,
Yeah,
right? Like that came from a reward only trainer. And if she wasn't out there experimenting with those things, I wouldn't have gotten that seed to plant to put into my
yeah,
practice. Because I
yeah,
know a lot of trainers that teach like a leave it or things like that, just right out of the gate with like, here's some food, and the dog walks up, they go leave it, and blah, on an e-collar, which to me is like
not fair.
grotesque. Like I
It's
don't
just
like
not fair.
that.
Yeah,
It's just not fair at all and runs the risk of so much fallout. And so, yeah, I mean, so much of what we're doing is we're just trying to minimize it. And then being able to bring in reward-based things helps us to
yeah,
minimize. So again, by the time I use the dog goes, I understand that. You don't have to do it 20 times before I understand it. I understand it on the first time
yeah.
because of all the preparation that went into this, right?
Because you're slowly starting and ramping it up, you can you'll see how much pressure you need for the dog in front of you. Because for some dogs you may need a leash correction, for some dogs you may need the squirt bottles, for some dogs you may need the e-collar, for some dogs all you ever gonna need may be the verbal or the spatial pressure. It really depends on the dog, but because you're doing it slowly rather than just letting the dog walk into the open knife, you're getting it right rather than way overshooting what you need in that
Yeah.
situation, right?
One of the challenges we actually had, so the sort of like a sister course to that one is my course on teaching your dog to walk behind you.
Hmm.
And that exercise is really the same exercise, but just sort of like in motion,
Hmm.
right? It's so we're starting, this very stationary, easy thing. And by the way, the skills that we teach with the food claiming, it's all the same stuff that then we use when I'm teaching dogs how to deal with seeing other dogs
Yeah,
um, if they're reactive, right? So we're
that
building up
was
to what happens on the street.
that was mind blowing. Like when I watched this course, I was like, "Wow, that was so fast."
It's
I
so
was like,
fast. It's so because
"That's
it's
so
really
fucking
intuitive to the
fast."
dog. Yeah, it's really fast. Um, so then we do the walk behind is it's the same exercise. It's all the same communication. So by the time we get to that point, usually like we do the food claiming, we use the same principles around like the doorway. So the doorway just replaces the food. It's this
Hmm.
thing you want that you want to move towards. And then I get people who are like, okay, cool. So like, how do we do walk behind now? And I'm like, well, you just walk. And like usually by the time we get there, the dogs are already, they're like, I think I know what you want. And so the hardest thing I actually had was in that course, I thought it would be important because I know that like I'm really good at doing these things. So I actually don't need that much to use any kind of like other correction beyond the spatial pressure. Like
Yeah,
usually that's enough. Sometimes I have to use a little bit of a squirt bottle. But when we do our homework right, it's so minimal. So the hardest part about shooting that course was I wanted to show people if you do need to use a correction, like this is at what point you would do it, this is how you would do it. This is the things that are important to be mindful of. We had a really hard time getting one of the dogs that I used like 3 or 4 dogs in the course. We had a hard time getting one of them to need the correction.
yeah.
But that's kind of
That's a
the
great
whole
problem to have.
idea,
Yeah,
right? Like that's kind of the whole idea behind it. So we sort of had to like fabricate situations to like be able to show people for
yeah,
education purposes. And it wasn't client dogs. It was actually one of my staff's dogs. So we weren't like doing this to somebody's like dog that didn't know that we were like we kind
yeah,
of purposely set the dog up to fail because we thought it was important for people to see what it would look like. And we were using a squirt bottle. The dogs were resilient. It wasn't
yeah, yeah.
I know there are people who are sensitive out there. Okay. We tried to be as fair as we could. But the other funny thing about the food claiming course that I wanted to say is um, so that course, even when I started working on walking behind, there was a point in my career, in my development as a trainer, who again, like my thing was doing behavior problems, where I really started to understand just how important it was to focus on arousal
Hmm.
where I was like, it's not just what the dog's doing. Like, I really need to be thinking about arousal, and I really need to work in such a way that I'm, using tools that lower arousal. Like, I started experimenting with like how dogs react to different types of corrections, where like some corrections, even at lower intensities, bring arousal down better than other corrections do, even at higher intensities. And
Hmm.
so I started to be really experimental with okay, I'm not just married to these particular tools. Like, let me find the thing that does the best job of lowering arousal down with the least intensity. And that's actually like I actually found used in the right way, squirt bottles do really well with that.
Hmm.
And it's like it's inexpensive, it's hard to screw it up. Most dogs are pretty okay with it. Like they're
Yeah, and
not
even if you
gonna like
screw it
shut a
up,
dog
well, it's
down.
water, so it's not a
Yeah, there's some downsides to it, like out and about in the world in the middle of winter. Like I don't feel great about
okay.
spraying a dog with water when it's freezing cold out. So then we have to get creative and look for other options. But regardless, but a lot of that started, and this surprises people. I'm a huge fan of Emily Larlham. I'm sure you're
Mhm.
familiar with Emily. Um, Kiko Pup is her YouTube channel. I've been a big fan of her from the start, and people are always surprised because I like her early. Like I don't know if she still wears these shirts, but like back in the day, she used to be in her YouTube channel with the shirts with like says like e-collars with the circle and the line slashed through it, like like anti. And she was like really like probably as close to like purely positive as you can get.
Yeah, like
Honestly, um,
yeah, I went to she
and
did a seminar in Italy once when I still lived in Austria, and I drove there, and it was really fun.
but she's wildly talented. Like I
She's
think she's so
great.
underrated.
She's so
But
good.
I've been a fan of hers for a long time. I've just always liked what she did and how she broke things down and made it so understandable. But I was watching videos of her like out and about with her dogs, like walking, and I've seen a lot like so I think leash walking is it's kind of the Achilles heel of the pure positive pet dog trainer. It's really hard to do with positive only methods. I think it's doable. I think it takes a tremendous amount of time and probably not doable for the average family.
Yeah.
But even when I've seen people do it, I would watch Emily's dogs and there was just something different about it in general. Like they were just so chill. Like,
Mhm.
and like you'd see these videos of her, clicker training one of her dogs to do some tricks, and her other dogs would be in the background and like really just chilling. Like, there's not needing to chew on things or like be occupied in some way. Like, they're just like, yeah, my turn will come. Like, they're just so, like, I just kept getting hit with this. Like, her dogs are so chill. Like, her dogs are doing all the stuff that, like, when I came up as a trainer, it, early on, like it was much more like even the balanced dog training was not nearly as balanced as it is now. Like it was still
Yeah.
more compulsion based than it is now. Um, and we were always told that like her dogs were looking the ways that we were always told you couldn't achieve with
Yeah.
positive reinforcement, right? There's always these positive reinforcement is going to create this over arousal. It's going to make dogs be disrespectful, like all this rhetoric that would come out
Yeah.
of the balance training world back then. You really don't get that these days. Like that would be really rare to hear those things these days. But we're going back, 20 years here and her dogs were just different. And so I was Googling her one day and I was like, oh, she's got an online course on leash walking. I got to know what she's doing. And so I bought her course. And the next day I got an email from her and she's like, hey, I saw you bought my course. I recognized your name. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, here we go. Right. But she's like, I really appreciate you buying my course. Um, I actually opened up my entire site to you. You can watch anything you want.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah.
And I was like, are you kidding me? And so I reached back out. I was like, this is amazing. I was like, I gotta tell you, like, I'm actually a really big fan of yours. And her and I, like, there was a couple week period where we were just emailing back and forth, like a couple times a day. And to a lot of people, like I think when they hear that, they're like shocked because like from the outside, we seem like we're polar opposites. But we have so much in common as far as like how we actually think about dog behavior and think about training and what we're trying to accomplish. Um, but she was really influential to me when it came to that understanding and really thinking about arousal differently, but very specifically, and this ties into that food claiming course because part of it, so what I love about that exercise is we can use it to several different ends depending on what's going on. So part of it is like, hey, if I'm going to use these types of pressure on the dog, I want to prepare the dog for that.
Yeah.
Part of it's like I need a way to communicate to the dog to move away from things and to stay calm, and I can do that with certain types of pressure as well. Part of it's like I might need to teach the human how to use their own body more effectively and assertively. And here's an exercise that's very low stakes and not out in the real world. They can practice in
Yeah.
their living room to get good with their own body. Um, but where her influence really came in was the idea that you can target low arousal with positive reinforcement. And again, like I would have never. I don't want to say never, but would have taken me a lot longer to come up with that conclusion on my own,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but because somebody like her is out there. So like really you look at that exercise, and I know a lot of people are very, there are people out there that are very purist when it comes to like at least trying their darndest or feeling very strongly about pressure, where even again, even the spatial pressure I use would
Yeah,
be seen as intimidation, or the squirt bottle would be seen as cruel, right? But I guess what I want people to understand is like 50% of that, like so much of that exercise was influenced and is informed by, reward only, practices and
yeah,
practitioners. Um, and yeah, I mean, it just at the end of the day, like that's always what we're after, right? Like, how can I do this better? How
yeah.
can I do this in a way that's just more graceful, more easily understood by the dog, but still is like you've seen how fast, like that was not an anomaly in that course when we were like, okay, cool, now we're going to do this and we're going to bring out another dog. And that was a really reactive little border terrier. I mean, that guy was a firecracker. Um, and the speed of that change was not an anomaly. Like that's very normal for me. Um, so we're saying like, how can I use positive reinforcement as much as I can? How can I minimize corrections as much as I can while still having very fast, achievable results that are easy? Like what I love about the food claiming thing is it's so easy for the dog to understand that like anybody can do it. It happens so quick, so quick. And it doesn't require any like really incredible, like fancy
I'm
skill set,
like, what really impressed me is how well this generalized.
it's so easy.
Yeah,
Yeah. And again, there's going to be dogs that are more challenging than others. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong. But the average dog, it is quite easy with. The walking behind was the same thing for me. Like the reason I started leaning into that was because once I realized that like the dogs picked it up fast, it seemed to make more sense to them than a
yeah,
traditional heel and was easier to manage for people than like a general loose leash walk. And so it was just like this best of both worlds. And I think like I got this comment on my YouTube channel the other day on an old video, and it was from somebody who clearly doesn't even really like probably hasn't even watched my work or doesn't understand what I do. They just want to feel a certain way about it, and that's fine. But one of the like in my profile on YouTube, because what I do these days is coaching for professionals, it says like I help dog trainers get better results in less time and have happier clients and make more money. Like
mhm,
that's what I do. And this person posted and they were like, if you're getting, results in less time and making more money, that inherently means you're like sacrificing the dog in some way. And I was like, what a really limiting belief that is.
yeah,
Like, first off, if I'm sacrificing the dog in some way, the results aren't better. Because for me, part of better results means like, how does the dog feel at the end of this?
yeah.
You know? Um, like I don't if the dog's looking like all like sketched out, like that's not a better result.
No,
It
yeah,
might like I don't know, it might have solved the problem, but it's not better. Um, but in all reality, like those things should go hand in hand. I mean, if you're getting better results, your clients are happier. If you can do it in less time, you've actually increased your capacity as a business, and you can take on more clients. You're going to get more referrals. Like it's like it was a really like self-limiting belief that I'm
yeah,
like, man, like how sad for you that you don't think your business is like possible for you without sacrificing anything at all. Um, and when I do coaching, by the way, it's not methodology. Like I have clients that are positive only. I don't, even my own trainers weren't required to train exactly the way I train. I really like helping people with their process and how they're thinking about the problems and how they're setting their training plans. Like there's so much that you can make improvements to your outcome,
yeah,
especially the speed of outcome, without changing what methods you're using or adding new methods or anything. Sometimes it's just a matter of just training more efficiently and training
yeah,
smarter. But anyway, um, yeah, I mean, that's what we're after with all that stuff, right? It's like it is that conundrum that we're in as trainers of there's the way I'd love to do things if I had infinite time. And
yeah,
then I'm faced with the reality of this situation of this owner and this dog that are not a good fit for each other, and the environment sucks for the dog, and the person's super tired all the time because they're working two jobs and whatever.
Yeah.
But I still want to give them a result. So it's like, how can I sort of make that happen and make it happen quickly and still try to do really good by the dog at the same time,
Yeah.
right? Like that's what it's all about to me. And it's really, really hard. Like it's hard. And we don't, I don't, nobody does always get it right.
Yeah, but like that is the goal, and that's a really good goal to have. Like, and that is part of the reason that I wanted to learn more about balance training, because like I don't have that knowledge, right? I'm good with positive reinforcement and setting the dog up for success, et cetera, et cetera. And the majority of my paying clients over the last almost decade have been um, like, okay, how do I say that without sounding judgmental? Have been well off enough to have the time and the resources, or
Hmm.
like have been privileged enough to have the time and the resources and the space, et cetera, to do things slowly and take their time with methods like, so I have the control and leash certification, et cetera, and like stuff like that, and doing it in that way. And it works. It works well. And if you wanna, and I've mostly worked with people who felt really strongly that they wanted to train in specific ways and not in others. Um, but what I've been doing on the side, mostly pro bono, because that is important to me, and I think dog training should be available to anyone and everyone, is work with people who couldn't afford dog training otherwise, just for free. Because I'm having fun, they're having fun, their dog's life gets better, and their life gets better. And that is one of the places that has shown me that like it doesn't make sense to make to work with this population in that same way because they can't do it, right? So like I would take dogs in to do it myself if I had the time and whatever. But seeing something like your food claiming course and then thinking I could use a control unleashed approach and work on this issue for 6 months every day, or I can use your food claiming approach and solve that issue in like a tiny fraction of that time and improve the life quality of the dog and the person much more quickly, which obviously is not sacrificing the dog in any way because it means the dog can go more places more often. So the dog is
And
going
I
to
think
have
that
a
the
more
big thing is
fulfilling
too is
life.
like I don't even think the two things are also mutually exclusive. I'm not super familiar with the Control Unleashed, you know,
Yeah,
I think I have the book, but I don't know, like, it's, I'm sure it's been updated. But even for instance, like, there's a lot of parallel between what I do out and about with a reactive dog and, Grisha Stewart's BAT work.
yeah,
So there's nothing like if you mix together food claiming and BAT,
yeah,
like you're off to the races. And that's basically what I do. Like I don't show that side of it in the food claiming course because it's not a course fully on reactivity. It's a course on that specific
yeah,
exercise. But if you watch, I have a course called Reactivity Rehab, and we do discuss a lot of the like, the dog's need for space and the idea of cutoff cues and like when you like her work is so powerful, but if you allow for the use of pressure and use pressure in a way that aligns with it, where like the messages are sort of like in alignment, um, it's extraordinarily powerful and
yeah,
so helpful for like just that average
yeah.
dog owner. You
No, and
know,
I agree. Like, and with Control Unleashed, it's similar. Like, I really like it, and it's really powerful, and it's an approach I really, really like, and that I'm gonna use for the rest of my life for sure on really lots of dogs. But like, just adding in little bits and pieces that I pick up elsewhere as I learn more, I think is gonna make me a much better trainer for way more people. And yeah, and also like if I like Susan Friedman, I don't know if you're familiar with her, says
no,
efficiency alone is not enough, which is one of those mantras that sometimes gets taken out of context and then quoted in the so-called first free world, as in you have to be as kind as possible, zero pressure, because it's not about efficiency. But efficiency also matters.
it
Because
does
if we're
also matter. Yeah.
efficient, we get to a place where everyone's life quality is higher a lot faster. And dogs' lives are short. Like our lives are
Mhm.
longer than theirs. But the faster I get to a point where I can take the dog places and the dog gets to have fun with me and my family and my friends out and about, the higher the percentage of high life quality the dog will have in its way too short life.
Exactly. You have to look at net quality of life.
Yeah.
I also, so one time, I was at a conference and I was talking to one of Amy Sadler's staff. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Amy or not. I love
That
Amy.
dog's playing for life, yeah.
Yeah. And she goes in and she works with a lot of humane societies that are like, for all intents and purposes, pure positive. And I'm like, how do you guys how do you bridge that? Because they will use like air horns and squirt bottles and shaker cans and things like that. And what she says, she's like, we always try to frame it as the use of this tool is going to give me more reinforceable moments,
Ah, that's
right?
a good
And I
way
think that that's
to
also something to look at
that's
too.
a good way to think about it,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's a tricky dialogue. I like these discussions. Like I said, I have friends that are reward only. I have friends that are reward mostly. Um, I don't really associate with anybody who's like compulsion mostly. But that being
Yeah,
said, I've seen people that don't really use any positive reinforcement beyond praise but also train in a super slow, subtle, methodical way with pressure. So it's not fast by any means. Like it's still like a slow, methodical
yeah,
process. Um, because they're being so subtle, like they're being so graceful with it, which is a lot of what, we're trying to do also. I think my biggest compliment ever was again, like I think it was on a YouTube video of mine where it was like early on when I started to play around with how to use pressure and release, and I was doing it with prong collars and like how to like really get as like soft as possible and really develop this communication. Um, and somebody commented and they said, I don't personally like the use of these tools. I don't use them, but if I did, I'd want to do it the way you're doing it. And that was like a super compliment to
yeah.
me. Um, sorry, I just got to text back my wife real quick.
No worries.
Yeah, that was a super big compliment to me, because that's like, I used to like early on, and I don't like, I get it. Early on in my career, I was pretty bold and cocky. I was a young guy hitting the world hard, right? And I used to get like hate mail, like legit hate mail, like threatening hate mail. Um, to be fair, like if I was an established trainer, I would have hated me too. Like as a youngster, like I would have hated me too. I probably wouldn't have sent hate mail, but regardless, um, as my career developed, that all kind of stopped. And I think well, there's always going to be outliers, the people with like really extreme beliefs about these things. I think there are a lot of people, like I've had conversations with Grisha Stewart. I've had really cool conversations with Ken Ramirez, with Emily Larlham, like people that people like associate with being sort of like the leadership of the reward only community.
Yeah,
Susan Garrett, you know, where I feel like I try to operate in a space within my use of tools where people can say, you know what, I disagree with it, but I respect what you're trying to do here.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I respect how you're trying to approach it, that you're actually being thoughtful about it. Um, and that's something I'm really proud of.
yeah. And that is, in the end, that's the best we can hope for because not ev like in general, not everyone is gonna agree with everything we do, but as long as they're able to put themselves into our shoes for a moment, that means we're doing something right because it makes sense, even to an observer.
Yeah.
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 Well, I think that's a good place to end. Um, Thank you for taking the time. I'm gonna put consider the dog in and your website in the show notes. Anything else you'd like to plug?
Um, I mean, if anybody out there is looking for help, either, they're looking just to sharpen their own skills training wise, but also I do a lot of helping with people's businesses. Again, I ran a very successful business for many years. Um, TylerMuto.com is sort of like the home of my coaching services. And again, even on the training end of it, this is not a mythology based, like it's not like a program, like come to my Tyler Muto School of Dog Training and learn my methods.
Mhm.
Well, I do get people that they do want to learn more about how I would do things, and I can be an open book. So much of it when I work with trainers is really not about their methodology. It's about like dog training schools don't really teach how to properly plan a training program and how to lesson plan and
Yeah.
lesson plan in a way that's not only about the dog learning but also about the humans learning.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily understand again like actually how you can really move the needle quite a bit when it comes to not only how fast you get your results, but how good the results are. Because bear in mind, when you get results faster, that also means that within your training program, you have more time for proofing and generalization.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we're not actually shortening the training program. We're actually just getting a better result in that amount of time because we're able to make things go along faster, which means happier clients, which means more income at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so much of that is just those little things that aren't methodology based, right? They're it's about how you're thinking about approaching this
Yeah.
problem, this human and dog team, and working with them. So yeah, tylerito.com for any of those things. Consider the dog for all the recording material. And again, it's myself. And then we got your course coming out real soon. And then there's, like I said, there's like 11 or 12 other instructors on there of all different mindsets. Like we do things differently and you can just get a feel. And some of it you might love, some of it you might hate. But it's like the monthly membership's $20 a month. Like so like it really is like the Netflix for dog people because we have we're close to 10,000 hours of content on the site.
10,000 hours. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for $20 a month. Like
Yeah.
it's insane. I think it's the best value in dog training
Yeah.
out there, to be honest. But a lot of our members, like they stick around for years because we're already, constantly releasing new stuff, but we have the discussions, we have the live streams, it's a nice community. So a lot of people, we have members that have been with us for a really, really long time. So yeah, you can definitely check that out if you're interested.
Nice. One question, if someone doesn't have Facebook, is there a way for them to watch the live stream or do they have to
Yeah, the
have?
live stream's not on Facebook.
Oh, okay, that's on
Yeah, it's
the web.
hosted directly on the website.
Okay,
Yep,
perfect. Yeah.
yep, yep,
Excellent. And also, Consider the Dog is also a podcast, right? Which is archive recordings
yep.
of the live streams. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, the older live stream recordings, they're usually like they're over a year old, but we do release them as podcast episodes for
Yeah.
free for anybody. Whereas the live streams themselves are kind of closed for membership. Only members get to engage and ask questions and those kinds of things.
Yeah, I like the podcast because that gives you an idea of how differently people approach things. And about the mutual respect. Like when you have one of the instructors on, you often like asks, so like this is how I would do it. How would you do it? I'm pretty sure you'd do it differently than I would. And then there's two approaches to or two different answers to a question that someone has asked.
Yeah.
And nobody is like bashing the other person as in like, oh no, this is the way it's
That's
done.
like our only rule. Like
Yeah.
our like literally like our only rule. I think it actually says in the Facebook group, like in the rules section, like one of them is like just don't be an asshole. Is like just like one of the rules. Like,
Yeah.
but like for my instructors, I mean, we don't dictate their content. Like we like the instructors to be able to make what they want to make, but our like you're not allowed to talk negatively about other methodologies.
Yeah.
Like you're just not allowed. That's the only thing. That's all we care about. We just want it to be open. We want people to be safe to ask questions, to say like, "Hey, this is what I've been doing," and to feel safe saying that, even if other people disagree with it. But I think like I'm so proud of this. I have two people that I recruited to like help like moderate the group, and I think they probably forgot they're even moderators because we just literally never have to moderate anything.
Yeah.
It's a really really cool group.
That is
Yeah,
nice, and that is really rare in the Facebook dog world.
yeah. In the
Like,
world
yeah,
in
like
general.
in the world in general, yes, and especially in the online or so-called social media world, because like people behind the keyboard are so mean. Oh wow.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it otherwise. I do not like drama in my life at all. I'm anti-confrontation, anti-drama. So yeah,
Yeah,
wouldn't
like
be
I'm
worth it for
I'm
me.
I'm for conflict, but constructive conflict. Like I mean, like if you are like sometimes I have a conflict with a friend, right? And I want to talk about it in a respectful and constructive way that lets us move beyond it. So I'm not
Yes, for
anti
sure.
that, but I'm anti just like being this react like this reactive dog, right? Because that doesn't help anyone.
Yeah.
But like when you
Yeah.
yeah, when you
No.
try to put yourself into the other person's shoes and you really listen to them, to their side, and they also really listen to you, you both grow. And you can still walk away not agreeing with each other, but like seeing a little bit more of what the world might look like from someone else's perspective.
Yeah. This was like maybe a year ago. This is the last thing I'll say. Um, a bunch of my students actually sent me the same video on Facebook, and it was Brian Agnew, who's a friend of mine and actually one of our instructors, and he was saying something about people like making their dogs walk behind them. Um, and like my students were like, dude, like you have a whole course on teaching dogs to walk behind. And but I don't even like I honestly don't even remember what he was saying because like to me it was clear like he wasn't necessarily referring to my course. But he was also like he was bringing up kind of questions he had about it and concerns he had about it in like a really sort of like open and respectful way. And so I made a video and I'm like, everybody's sending me this video about Brian Agnew like saying this thing. And like my whole response to it was like this is great. Like this is like awesome. Like this is what we're supposed to be doing as professionals. We're supposed to be questioning things. We're supposed to be asking about them. It's okay to disagree. He's doing it respectfully. Like kudos to Brian. Like this is awesome.
Yeah,
I know people are expecting me to like feel this certain negative way about it, but like I really don't. And it actually makes me feel great that like Brian and I have the kind of relationship where
where
like
it's okay to do
like
that.
he like even if he was talking about, which he wasn't, the kind of thing he was talking about was not what I do. Um, but even if he was, like I know that he knows he can openly say
Yeah,
like he would do something differently, and like that also makes me feel really good. So I don't I'm supposed to feel bad about this, but I just don't. Like
I
um, and but
it's
that's
a
the problem
huge
with social media
compliment
is
actually.
it everybody it just wants to like fester that, and I just
Yeah,
really like having an environment that doesn't, and I like operating in a way that doesn't. Like I like that like I comment on Emily Larlham's mom's paintings on Facebook and she smiles back or
yeah,
says hello back, right? Like I like that I can exist in that world where, I can have differences of opinion with people, but also see the commonalities with them and have a really good mutual respect. That's the world I
yeah.
want to exist in.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I hope
Yeah.
one day we will exist in that world.
Yes, indeed. All right. I will let
Okay.
you go. I'll stop talking now.
Well, thank you so much for making the time. It was great having you on, and I'll see you soon. I'll
All right. Thanks.
stop
Thanks
the
so much for
recording
having
now.
me.
I have a question if you have 5 more minutes.
Yeah,
Or
for sure.
thank you everyone for tuning in. Like and subscribe, and if you enjoyed this episode, leave me an Apple Podcast review or a Spotify rating. Those really help spread the word. For other ways to support the podcast and the pro bono parts of my training endeavors, head to adventuredogsanarchy.com/support. There's also a library with free dog training resources on my website. Additional ones are on my YouTube channel that I currently update twice a week. And if you'd like to help me pay rent and dog food, as well as follow along with my adventures in learning to use so called tools, as well as adventures in South America from a dog and social perspective, join my Patreon. I would super appreciate having you, your comments, thoughts, and criticisms. You'll find me at patreon.com/adventuredogs.